Welcome to this episode of the Justice Team podcast on the Justice Team Network. I'm your host, Bob Simon, and today we're going to talk about something rather unfortunate. That's the fires that we had here in Southern California, and we have on our very own from the Justice Team, Abel Fernandez. Abel, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Thank you, Robert.
And Abel's just not an advocate in this area, unfortunately. Abel, tell him what happened.
So I was moving back into my home over in Altadena. This was my childhood home. I've been there since I was 4 years old. So I grew up there. All of my siblings grew up there. I was actually moving back in so I could spend a little more time with my brother because my sister had just moved out. And about a day after I moved back in, that's when the fires happened. The Eaton Canyon fires took our entire home. It's already been confirmed it's a total loss. Everything that's there was gone. Just
Everything.
Gone. Yeah.
And I know you just passed the bar in November.
Mm-hmm.
Started with an attorney with us in December.
Basically, not even a month it happened.
Yeah. And your dad told me that you just bought some new suits that you just moved back in. And
Yeah, I was all excited for our photo day because I was getting professional photos he'd done here. So I was like, let me get a couple and all that. And yeah, the one that's on there is gone too in my photo.
Wow, the one that's your attorney photo's gone too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the last record of it.
So, kind of walk us through what's happened after, because I know you have your youngest brother, Matthew. He's how old? 12-ish?
He's 11, turning 12 in like a week, actually.
Yeah.
It's coming up.
And I know it's hard on him. So just walk everybody kind of through first, the sense of kind of what happened and then what's going on with like insurance stuff, possibly after what you're learning in the community and I know you're fighting for a lot of folks in the community right now.
So, I mean, after the fire, thankfully we had family nearby, so we didn't have to go to a hotel or anything. And I mean, as of now, we've all found proper housing and all that, but a lot of people had to go and reach out to insurance and get hotels because that's been getting covered and all that. But not everyone has been as lucky. Some people are really displaced or just trying to find all their things. When I went to one of our Sifting events, I was talking to other homeowners and all that. They were telling me their stories of how, they didn't know what they were going to do after, how they were just kind of shell-shocked. I mean, process-wise, it's just been a lot of checking all the different insurances, what is covered, what isn't covered. We were worried we weren't even covered because we had our policy stopped for non-payment, and we actually lucked out because we had insurance through our mortgage, so we were actually able to start rebuilding a lot sooner than we expected.
Yeah, so there's just not non-payment of your insurance. They were trying to double, triple your
they were trying
coverage
to double the amount. We were like, no, dude, out of nowhere, seriously. And then
and they were trying to also use it that your sister is an additional driver, and they're like, well, she's at college, she's not even living here.
It's pretty gross how they use every angle like that instead of just helping people.
So and then I know when we were at your property that we found some of your dad's old watches, badge, all kind of stuff like that. But you've been what's called sifting with other folks in the community.
Yes. So there was an event a while back. We're still doing them now, but essentially a lot of attorneys have been getting together to go and help homeowners sifting through their process and get them connected to people to other attorneys who are providing pro bono advice and all that. Definitely a big recommendation, I'd say, by the way. There's a lot of good attorneys out there if you know where to look, and we can help you find them. But they'll give you advice on where to go from here and maybe get you to the right person who can help you with your cases, because there's a lot of angles to this. It's super complex, not just because of all the different causes and the different fires, but just all these different factors in, where were you left afterwards? What did you have to do? The kind of damage to your home and all those steps there. So
and everybody's situation's been different. Do they have insurance? Are you owning? Are you renting? Right? Everybody is completely different. But whenever you were sifting through other people in the community's properties, kind of what's that process like? And were you able to help anybody with things?
So it was actually really funny. I ended up getting assigned with one of my former football teammates' mother.
Oh, really?
So it was really interesting. She was like, "Oh, Abel, it's been so long. Wow, I'm proud of you, how you became and all that." It was fun learning how they've been doing. And I ended up helping her sift. I mean, when we went there, we were provided gear to make sure everything was safe. That one suit and then gloves and all that typical
Yeah,
stuff.
shout out to the Upper Ojai Relief and Trevor Quirk for bringing all those sifters down because they did deal with the Thompson fires and all the equipment. Like it made it a lot easier for us.
Oh, very much so. It definitely would have been so much harder, especially with the sifting boxes. Those were, kind of part of the job, but definitely super helpful. But we focused on specific areas where we were expecting there to be sentimental and valuable objects. So, oftentimes, multiple level areas where there used to be a second floor and where there was, dressers, drawers, anything that would like typically store stuff because that's, where people are keeping their jewelry often. But it's also just a lot of work, just like sifting through all that, you can't get a ton of ash in there. So it takes a lot of effort going through even just a small square footage of any area. So, I mean, it was a lot of work. Sadly, we weren't able to find anything this time around, but it was very early on and it was just me and her. So, there's a lot of other people who have been finding stuff and it's really good to get in there and just put in the work before everything gets cleaned out.
Yeah. So what's the process now? Or have you guys been cleared to clear the lot essentially?
Yeah. So the main thing you wanted to keep an eye out for is once the city had gone through and gotten rid of any dangerous, material. So a lot of them was like lithium batteries, for example. If you look at all the Priuses near their engines, you'd see, yellow marking and spray paint. So you can know this is where it was. They'll leave a sign if it's fully clean, but you definitely want to be careful because, like I said, there's dangerous materials. There's gas leaking. There was propane tanks. I think those recently got taken out for the most part, but you want to keep an eye on those because
that's like step one is you ask the municipality to come out and clear it that it's safe to.
Yes, exactly.
So you have to reach out first and say, hey, come out to my property, clear it, give it the okay so that we can then have somebody clear the lot. Right?
Yes.
So are you guys at that point yet, ready to have the lot cleared?
Yeah, it's already been cleared. We have the go-ahead to go sifting now. So that's essentially what we've been doing. We're planning a proper like family sift together in our house, but right now it's just been trying to help out others.
Wow. And then what's the next step in the process after they clear your lot? Like when can people, do you know, have they greenlit anybody to start to rebuild yet?
Well, so that one I'm not as familiar with. I know we are starting the rebuilding process. We're still looking for the right people to like architects and all that to really start designing it. But the big thing right now is because a lot of debris is still there. I believe it's the city. They're going to be offering services to help clear that out and at least get rid of the ash and kind of, empty it out. So there's still that process that needs to be done. But however long that takes, once that's done, we should.
So talk to us about because your house was a historic, eclectic. It's Altadena, so you could give everybody a sense of the community there. And are you going to rebuild something that was as cool as it was before?
We had that house when I was really young, so it was definitely a bit of an older style in some of its design aspects. But and while this may be a good opportunity to maybe like build a house of our own, it's one of those things where it's less about the structure of the house and the stuff in there, it's all just stuff. It can be replaced one day, but it was, all the events that took place there, the photos that were there that were the most important, I feel. When we were visiting with some of my family and I was even talking with my uncle about it and he was just like, I can't believe it's gone. And we were both crying about it because like a little before the fire happened, we had, my father runs an private investigation.
Yeah,
firm.
just to be, IPEC has been our investigator for 20 years. I think I've been working with your dad and your uncle.
Yeah.
I knew Abel when he was a little kid, and we actually used to go over. Well, you weren't there, but we would go over to your grandma's house when your uncle was living there and get tattoos with Angel. Remember Bazaar? We would just sit there for hours, and Yeah, but this was a long time,
Yeah.
and I've known Abel since he was a youngin, and I remember his dad saying how smart you were, and he was so proud of you. And then Abel finally passes the bar and gets his suits, and these things happen.
Yeah.
You know,
But yeah, so every year we would always hold a little holiday party to kind of celebrate our employees and all the people who helped us, even just family members too of ourselves and other employees. We actually had our new employee Ellie come in, and it was great having her there. Sadly, she was also one of the people who lost her house. That's a story in itself. But it was just like we just had Christmas there. We just had a party there. It was so full of love and memories and all these people who we helped and have helped us. And it's and that was the thing for me. It was like even now, I'm still getting the grips with how it's just not there anymore.
your memory's lost.
And I think more than anything, it's not just the moment there. It's you're driving and you're like, oh, maybe I'll go down. Oh, I can stop by and get my usual drink at the grocery store. Oh, I have no reason to go up there. The grocery store isn't even there anymore. Oh, summer pool parties, those are gone. We used to get together for that. And it's just one of those things where each little thing that's gone, you realize it's gone. Favorite record, an activity you used to do. Or one thing I like to remember is how Sundays we used to go down to this little mom and pop restaurant, Fox's, and that one's gone too. All these, I know you say historical sites, but just like these physical manifestations of memory are just gone.
And I know you're big into horror culture, and you had that there too, which was gone. But how are you? If people ask, like, how can they help folks? And we were discussing off camera about like helping them replace the things that were special to them, like whether it was something they used to collect. I know for your dad it was the vintage records, and
I mean,
how can they help people,
in terms of like if you want to help yourself with things you've lost, I would definitely recommend some kind of like journal, keeping track of not only how you felt, but also if you just by chance remember something, you can add it in there, because you're not going to be able to remember everything that's been gone. There's, like you mentioned, those records, we had like 3 giant calyxes completely filled, and they were still overflowing. That's going to be hard to remember every single record there. But, it's just keeping something by your side and recording the moment you remember something, I would definitely suggest, just because that's going to come up with time.
Go through old social media photos, other people taking photos inside your house.
Definitely. We've ended up finding a lot of things just from old photos, or like maybe online receipts from things you've purchased. That's definitely a way to keep track. Cool. That's how I've been able to keep track of a lot of the stuff I've lost. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's not going to be something you can just sit down and have all collected in one day.
So tell us about the sense of community that you have in Altadena.
I mean, Altadena was always just a wonderful family place. You could walk down and there was always something available, whether that be, the Altadena library was always real close. I actually lived near Christmas Lane. So every Christmas, they'd put up all the lights and everyone would show up. It'd be a big old city event. People would drive down. There was even this cute little historical museum where this guy who's been collecting train sets for like years, he'd have a little museum you could walk through and all that and see his collection, and they'd have a little blurbs and all that. It was super lovely. Apple cider too, hot apple cider. Oh my goodness. Grocery marts and all that. But I think if anything, the community I've felt the most was actually after these events happened. So, I was an introverted kid. I had some friends, but, they were smaller groups. I was a little, kept to myself. And, I had friends, but we never did like these big gestures for each other or anything like that since we were younger. And I don't think I really understood what community meant in like every sense of the word. But it's funny how this tragedy has become a really big learning experience for me, because I've gotten to really see community. And I mean, there's people are going to point to the obvious, volunteering and do all those things, those are all super important. That's big in community. But it was also just the little gestures, whether it's someone who you haven't talked to in a while coming and saying, hey, how have you been? Sorry, we haven't talked in a while, but I just want to make sure you're okay and let you know anything. If you need any help, I'm there. Or like, yeah, I didn't even realize I was building community when I'd go to like my little social events, whether that be a board game night at my local game store. I was talking to a couple people there offhandedly and just like, you'd be like, oh, here, let me get you a couple used games that are like to help replace your collection. It's like, no, it's fine. And it's like, no, just let us do this for you. And I'm not used to that. I'm not used to just someone coming up and going, let me give you this. You can't, it's not just me being nice. It's just me to help you out because we want to do something nice for you because we think you do something for us. Wow. And it was just little things that made me realize, wow, having other people who are just there for you that you can just rely upon in times of struggle. That, I mean, again, it's just that kindness that's like completely unsolicited. They just want to do that for you. To them, it's as easy as breathing air. And it really has taught me that how wonderful community is. They're here, how, having all these team members that come and help out, talk to you, support you, having these events where we go and help homeowners and all these people who lost these important things, who really need it because, they're all shell-shocked from these events. And it's just, it's made me feel really wonderful to have, and really inspired me to want to be a person who can beget community like that.
Yeah, and I know you've been helping a lot of families out with, figuring out their options, insurance, no insurance, rights against the third party responsible with Edison, and helping them itemize everything that they lost. How do people get a hold of you, Abel? What's the best way?
So you can reach me out through my email at afernandez@justicesteam.com. If you send me an email, obviously I'll talk to you and with the rest of the team and all that. We also have a couple of forms on our website. If you have any issues you want to bring up, whether that be just you want to bring up your case or even want to just discuss your options, oftentimes, there's a lot of attorneys here that we know who are willing to help you and tell you what you can do next without necessarily having to have us come on and represent you properly. We can help you figure out what to do next.
Yeah, and also with the, do you need help with your property sifted? Do you need help with the local municipality to get your lot cleared? All these little things. Yeah, if you're watching or listening, reach out to Abel, Fernandez@justicesteam.com. And, thanks for being on the show, Abel. It's a little therapeutic. I think I think people need to hear these stories, right, and understand how
for
real
sure.
it is.
It's you really only get it once victims talk about it.
Yeah.
Like it was so hard seeing so many of my family members just kind of break down over this, and you're really only going to understand it when you see their pain like that.
Well, thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Justice Team podcast on the Justice Team Network. Reach out any which way you can. Reach out to Abel directly, but thanks, man. And, I'm excited to see how you rebuild. Okay.
Thank you for having me and letting me share my story.